So maybe I'll start with a personal story of Lisa, of me. So I was super fortunate in life that I came across this subject very young. And the first time I heard this subject, I heard it in art and music when I was a teenager, but the first time I heard it named was in Buddhism. But I could hear it in music. I could hear it in art. I could hear it in when I was laughing or having fun. And then the first time I heard it named was in Buddhism, and I fell in love with Buddhism as soon as they spoke it. And the way they spoke about it was being in the moment. You have to be present. And they spoke about it like it was you had to do that. But even in that, even in them saying it's about the moment, it's about presence, it's about you being present, this is the freedom, what is the freedom. As soon as they said that, I knew what they were talking about. It was like I could taste love in it. Literally, I could taste the love of that. And I fell in love with the subject instantly. And I just knew there was something in it that I had to follow. And when I got involved in the Buddhist group, they talked a lot about the end of craving. So the end of craving, in my language, would be the end of seeking. And they almost made it sound like you had to stop having pleasure and stop having pain. Or maybe it wasn't they made it sound like that, but my interpretation was that I had to stop experiencing pleasure. So what I did for quite a few years was I cut off all those places in where I heard this message, because I thought my seeking for it was wrong. So I stopped listening to music, I stopped watching romantic movies, I stopped doing things that I loved, because I thought that was illusion. I didn't realize at the time that I was actually hearing it in those things. I was remembering myself in those things. I didn't know that. And then something happened in the Buddhist group where I got angry with doing that, where I wanted to listen to music, where I wanted to do all these pleasurable things that I'd done before. And then I realized that I'd been mistaken, that it wasn't about stopping doing these things. It was the end of the belief that it was actually in those things. That it was actually in me all the time. It's just those were the things in the world which were like signposts that were saying, here I am, here it is, but it wasn't actually in those things. So that love that I was seeking when I listened to music, or through a romantic film, or through a perfect piece of art or literature, it wasn't actually in those things. It was actually when I listened to those things, I remembered myself. So when they say it's the end of craving, it's not the end of doing all the things. It's not the end of the pleasure and the pain. It's the end in the belief that something in the world will give you what you look for. That what you look for is yourself. And I was just hearing myself in that. Then after that was a big shift. And then there were other awakenings. And then I remember this time, there was many times, but this is the one that springs to mind, where I was sitting in my hot tub. And I used to sit in my hot tub, and I had my ball thrower for my dogs. I had 2 dogs, but the neighbours' dogs used to come, so 4 dogs. And I would sit in the hot tub, and they would come and they would bring the ball back and drop it in the hot tub. And I wouldn't move, the bubbles would bring it around to me. And then I'd pick the ball up, and then I'd pop it in the ball thrower, and then poof! And then they would go again. And it was so much fun for me, I could do it for hours, because when they brought the ball back, 1 dog's head would pop up, drop the ball in, and then 3 other dogs' heads would pop up. And I'd just see 3 heads like, And this is so funny to me and sweet. And then I just had this moment, and there was many moments prior to that, where I knew that their looking was the same looking as mine. I just knew that that which was looking at me, sitting naked in my hot tub with a ball thrower, was the same as me that was looking at these four heads, looking at me. I knew it was all the same. And there was a sense in that moment of there wasn't any distance between us, that we were so close. It was the same everywhere. And then there were many other moments. I just explained them because it helps you to see it in yourself. It's not really you that sees it, but it helps clear what's not true. I know it's super confusing, this language, because I'm kind of speaking personally as if it's you that wakes up, but it's not you that wakes up. And then there were many other experiences. There was another experience which I've talked about a lot, where I was in India with my boyfriend at the time, Roger, and I'd been listening to lots of satsangs, and I was laying in bed, and I don't know if I fell asleep or I didn't fall asleep, but what happened was everything disappeared. There was nothing left. There was no room, there was no objects, there was no sounds, there was no me that was aware of the sounds, there was no sights, there was no sensory perception, but there was consciousness of it all and a sense of being. And there was nothing there. And this could have lasted forever. I couldn't have thought about it. I couldn't think, gosh, this is boring. When am I going to come back and something's going to happen? Because there was no thinking. There wasn't any ability to recognize it. It was just happening. There was just this live, conscious presence, aware of nothing, not a thing. And that could have gone on forever. For billions and billions of years, I could have been laid there. There wasn't anything that was registering time. And then finally, a thought popped in. So out of nowhere, a thought popped in and said, this is what they talk about. And then another thought popped in and said, but if they talk about it, who are they talking it to? Like, who am I? Like, who are they talking it to? And then, like a domino effect, the whole life of Lisa appeared. Like, tug, 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 tug. Like all my experiences as Lisa. Like everything all different memories of when I was a child, things that have happened to me, of things I loved, sad things, happy things. And then feelings of Lisa began to arise, and my emotions of Lisa. Then things in the room began to appear. So the table, then the sounds, the bed, then the sounds began to appear, the doo-doo of the rickshaw drivers, the sounds of birds. And then the body of me, of Lisa, began to arise. And that was really clear after that. There was no more confusion. There was still suffering after that, or what I'd call identification with the personality, but there was no longer any doubt of who came first, the consciousness or Lisa. Like it was so clear that who I was prior to Lisa, that there was something prior to me, that could be there, and there didn't need to be any memory, any sensation, any idea, that could be there, and there could be no sense of Lisa, that was the first thing that came into existence, and that could even function without Lisa. And no matter how much I listened to people speak about this subject, I could never have imagined that. I could never have thought about that. This is a very, in a way, personal experience. Like it's not something that you can be shown or taught. It's something that you are. It's just that the attention gets focused on thoughts and ideas and the world, and there's a forgetting of what came first. That is prior to the person, the ideas, the feelings, the sensations, the stories. What most people walk around with is identification with the person. That you are a story walking in time, and you're in relationship to a world that's external to you, and that you're inside the body, and that you are your feelings, you are your emotions, you are your name, your memory, and you have 80 years of life, roughly, if you're lucky. And that you were born and that you're going to die. And most of society and humanity believes that about themselves. But that's not who you are. There's something that was there prior to all that and is there all the time. All the time. Even in deep sleep. Although that's a very complicated subject, deep sleep. Even prior to this body being born. And after this body dies. The problem is that your brain only remembers this life. So you only remember roughly from 2 or 3 years old. So you can't remember being alive before that. Because your brain only functions as a memory for when this body grew. Sometimes people can have past life memories. And really everything that you do and are on the human level has come from the past, from your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your great-great-grandparents, from the dinosaurs. It's information that has gone through apparent time. But none of that is who you are. That's something that moves in who you are. So who are you? So I would say you are this alive presence. And this alive presence is a total mystery. And it's something that cannot be named by anybody. It's prior to words. Words arise in it. So right now, which is all we ever have, is what's happening. There are two qualities which are actually not qualities, but we're going to call them qualities because I've got to name them something. Two qualities that are always here. And I will name them consciousness and the sense of I am. Now, not personal consciousness. Earlier we were using not personal awareness, we were using that personal awareness. I'm talking about something that knows all of it.